Alrighty, gang. As we continue the process of building this back better, oil pump. I got to get the oil pump in because I have to make an adapter, which is what's in this box, to fit the late Type 3 Mustache Bar that goes across. This case isn't drilled for it. It should have a boss here and a big one over here and another one over here. It doesn't have any of that. So they make this kit that'll bolt onto the oil pump. However, before I do that, a couple things to note with oil pumps. There's two kinds of, well, there's a lot of different kinds, but for the case of what we're doing here, there's a different oil pump from like 67 to 69 and then 70 through 79. The old block is actually from a 72. It's in a later case, and it's dual relief. What that means is that we got a screw here for a relief, a pressure relief of the oil, and one down here. This case only has one of those. And what does that mean? It means this has the older oiling system with the slightly smaller passages and all those things. So I can't reuse the old oil. Well, this is the oil pump that came on the original engine. This is the oil pump that came on the one with the bad piston. You can see they're different. This one has deeper gears. I think it's like 22 millimeters to 26 or something like that. Net, I need to use this one. This one will fit. This will go in. This will not be correct. And the biggest thing you see is look how big that hole is versus how big that hole is. So if I were to put this bigger oil pump in, it's not going to line up correctly with the oil passages. Normally I wouldn't even bother with thinking about this. I just slap in the old one. But this old one ran a lot of trash through it. So I have to go through. I've got to check the clearances. I have a little, you can actually measure with feeler gauges what your clearances are inside, like between the gear and the housing and stuff. I got to make sure it's good. And if it's good, I'm going to clean it up and I'm going to send it. It should be fine. These are really hardy. They're very hard to break. But I'll check it just to make sure. A little bit of wear on the inside of the case half here. I don't know if the light's going to let you see it. You can see some swirlies. This is the front cover for the pump. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to clean this up and then get this guy measured. And if he's good, the next thing you're going to see is me putting it in. And if it's bad, the next thing you're going to see is a new oil pump going in that thing. Alrighty, as I'm doing the oil pump, let me explain this conversion because I think it could help people. So we're using the oil pump that came with a dual relief or the single relief case. I checked it out. Our cover clearance is good. I sanded the cover and got the marks out of it. It's ready to go, right? But I started putting longer studs in, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just show people what's going on with this so they know. So this is a Type 1 Volkswagen case. For the most part, Type 1 and Type 3 they're the same. They share all the same internals. They share oil pumps. They share fuel pumps, as I'm looking at this. They share lots of stuff. But one of the things that's different between a case that's designated for a Type 3 versus a Beetle or a Ghia is the mounting bosses here for the later cars. Earlier cars, it didn't matter. This is actually a Type 3 case. It's got the U over here on the U in the beginning of the VIN. The thing is, in the beginning of the run, up until, maybe 71, I'm not sure, until the last few years of the Squareback and the Notchback and the Fastback's run, there was a big post that hung on the front of the case of the fan here, and that big post went to a mount at the back on the car, and that stabilized the rear of the engine. They went away from that in the last couple years of production, and they went to a Mustache Bar similar to the Type 2s, the buses. This is that Mustache Bar, and it basically goes back here and hangs the motor from the ends there and here inside the chassis. Now, the reason that matters is because the later cases all are drilled for those mounts. There's actually whole bosses that don't exist on this case. For example, here's one of them. This boss right here, you can see you've got the high one, the medium one, the low one, and then you got this big guy right here, which goes down into the oil relief. Well, over here, we got the tall one, the medium one, the small one, flat, and the oil relief. So it's not a big deal. It's still a Type 3 case because it worked back in those cars. But this car, being the last year of production, only has provisions for the Mustache Bar in here. It does not have provisions for the rear case, so like the rear hanger. So it hangs from this and this. These pockets don't exist on the earlier cars, but up here, it's actually here, there's a big housing that's down in here, and that mount kind of has like a peg that whoop goes into that mount and holds it. All as well. In my case, I've got an earlier Type 3 engine. I dated this block, and I want to say it's like a 69. So I've got a later case, but it's not late enough to have the Mustache Bar. So the solution is Empy makes this guy. Just basically goes over the oil pump studs and gives me the mount at the bottom, the two mounts here, so I can hold the engine up. Now, there's some variations and some concerns with the instructions. The instructions have you using this as the cover plate for the oil pump when you use this kit. That is not correct. I don't even know if these instructions are still wrong or if they, let's take a look real quick. Let's see, adapts to all engines, all steel, blocks with boss. Yeah, you know what? They don't even tell you how to do it anymore. Good for them, because it was wrong forever. So basically, in a nutshell, what you do is you've got to replace the oil pump studs. These are the oil pump studs that come with it, or they come with the car. These are the standard stock ones. These are the oil pump studs that you get in the kit. Got to swap them out. And the way that I like to do that is, and I started doing it here, I did the other three already, I just put you just do a lock nut. You know, you slide one nut on, and then you put another nut on, and you tighten them against each other. And then when you try to grab, in this case, you could usually grab the inner, but it's holding. I can spin this stud out because those nuts are locked against each other. So I'm just going to take this stud out, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other stud. I'm going to lock two nuts on it, and then I'm going to thread it in. Now, you see the oil pump's already installed. That's because I'm an idiot, and I forgot I had to do this with the studs. It's been a little while. So I'm doing it with the pump on. And this sealant on the pump, just so you guys know, is not RTV. That is flange sealant. I'm using the stuff from Permatex, the 51813. Aircraft, Permatex makes an aircraft one that's black. The trick here is that you're sealing flanges. You're not sealing, it's like the case halves are sealed with the same thing. You can't put gaskets in this stuff, like regular gaskets or even gasket maker, because it will move the tolerances of everything. In this case, the tolerance is really important between the front cover and the face of these gears. You can't have oil bypassing it, but it still has to have room to move. Super important that you use something like a flange sealant. Now, whether you use the paper gasket or not is going to be up to you. I'm going to use the paper gasket that comes with the kits because that's what Volkswagen used. I just spent time scraping it off the old cover plate. But anyway, that's what we're doing there. Let me get this stud threaded back in, and I'll show you guys the rest of how this goes together. All right, just for those that don't know, this is supposed to be slightly educational, I suppose, at times. So I put a little bit of sealant on there. I'm going to thread this guy in. We just want the sealant on there to help block the thread, or block the threads, because these do go all the way into the case. Next up, like I was mentioning, how you remove a stud is the same way I'm going to install this one. You put one nut on, then you thread another nut on, and you essentially jam them into each other. Let me get my other wrench here. You jam them into each other to lock them on the threads by tightening them against each other. So this one I want to turn like I'm going to back it off, and this one I want to turn like I'm going to tighten it. And when they come together, they will lock themselves to the threads. And now I can just grab this contraption that I just created, and I can thread this all the way in. Again, it's blind holes, so you don't have to worry too much about overdoing it, but you don't want to send this unthreaded part crashing into the case and crack the case. That would be a debacle for you and for me if I do it right now. So once you get it in, you feel pretty good about it, then you just back these off like normal, hold the back one, loosen the front one, and then they'll just unthread right off. So that's how you change out studs on anything, really. That trick works for everything under the sun. These are not the right nuts, by the way. We will not be using those. The correct nuts actually have a little sealing surface built into them. I've seen lots of people use the wrong nut for this and it not leak. These were on this motor, so we're going to take advantage of that and we're going to use them. But essentially what happens next is we have to put on our factory cover plate. So our factory plate goes on first, and that's the plate that I've already done the things to make it so that it is flat, because you want it flat. This gasket's giving me a bit of a hard time. And there's a wear mark. I did sand this already, but there's still a bit of a witness mark there. You want that witness mark to go right back into the spot that it was before. So we're going to put that plate on. Now normally, in normal application, I would just seal this up. I'd tighten those down, I'd torque them, and that'd be it. But in this case, we've got some additional steps. We need to add this spacer plate that comes with the kit. So we're going to throw that on. And what that should do is provide a flatter surface for this to basically spacer up against. I don't know if you guys can't see it, but it sits down in there and actually grabs that plate. What are these things still doing on here? Look, got garbage from the manufacturing process on here. There we go. Alrighty, looks like the torque spec is about 15 pounds. Obviously, probably wondering why I was putting it on last time without the plate on. Well, I just forgot. So plate will go on, then nuts, obviously. We've got this all trimmed up. I had to make I made a couple more adjustments too, just to try to make sure that it was good. It's better to not mess this up, because if this thing goes on and isn't right, it is absolutely going to leak. And if it leaks, that's a horror show. There is a bolt. I don't know if you guys noticed. There's a flange back here. That flange actually goes through around a piece of the block that requires a bolt and nut, which the kit immediately comes with. It comes with a sweet little wavy washer and a bolt. So I'm going to put that in loose for now. I just don't want to end up not getting it in here, or finding out that I can't get it in after the fact because I don't have this exactly lined up right, or some other nonsense. So let's see if we can make this find its home. Yeah, see, it's going to fight me a little bit. That's what I thought. Once this is torqued, I'll never be able to wrestle with it either. Yeah, it's over here. It's just a little bit off kilter. So let's get this through. Looks like it's going to play the old screw it in game until we get there. Yeah, there it goes. Alright, so we'll get that mostly in place, ready to go, and then we will get these nuts on. Let me get the nuts started. You don't have to watch that. Alright, they are started. I got this guy through in the bottom. I did have to bend this bracket a little bit just because shipping and poor manufacturing and all the things. So obviously we are not torquing it with this, but we do want to get it so that we've got all the slack out of it. It just makes it a little bit easier when we do fire up the torque wrench. I like to use an oldie. Like I said, I switched it out for the bigger one. I got to go to 168 inch pounds. So I'll bring you guys in here. We can torque it together, and hopefully nothing bad happens and nothing strips out. Let's see, can you guys see it? Yeah, you can see it more or less. So we're just going to get close to start. Yeah, see, some of these are really loose. I don't like using the whipper gun to do this, so I like to get it, I'd rather just do extra turns here. Trying to get it to it's about 100 even, 100 inch pounds. See that, 100, about 100, about 100, and now we'll go up, I don't know, some amount, about halfway or almost to the 160 mark. 168, I think, is where we're going to. So this is calibrated in 20, so 20, 40, 60, 80, so we're going to go to the 60 and just a hair past. Just a hair past. Hair past. Hair past. Okay. And then I just got to tighten up this deuter on the side over here, which not going to use a torque wrench for, because it's just a nylock clamping nut. I'm going to need to put something on there, though, to hold it. So let me button that up, and then we'll get the Mustache Bar kind of in place. All right, glom some hardware. Got a nylock. Glom some hardware. Got some nylock nuts for this. I think the upper bolts are going to be easier to find, or like the more difficult ones to find. Make sure I have the right ones. So as you can see, things interfere with pins and stuff. That's why I want to get this thing on as soon as I can, because it really does need to be on here in order to do a lot of other stuff. But that's basically it. We're going to send a bolt through with a washer on it, and hopefully it will be in good position to do the things it's supposed to do. Let's put another washer on there. Remember, folks, washers all have bevels. Let's see, is that stick through too far? Kind of does. I don't love that. They're a little long. They're not going to hit the case, but they're a little long. You guys can see. Like, there's room, but there's not a lot of room. Let me see if I can find some other bolts and I'll get this thing buttoned up. And I just opted to put a lock washer on it, because finding the right bolts for this, they're also nylock, which I want, not easy. Plenty of room though. I'll show you guys and then get it tight. Look at that. All right. Make sure this one's good. Not something you want coming loose. Alright, and then I gotta get the little guy down below, who is of course, a different size, because it even is to 10, just like it is on the actual, if you use the correct mount, or the original mount. Alright, so, that's the Mustache Bar, guys. If you ever have, you can see there's plenty of room here, I can get my finger in there. If you ever have to do this, this is how you do it. You want to make sure that you take your time. Make sure you don't get it. Don't be afraid about grinding on that empty thing. I mean, these things are pretty famous for coming. That's the part number if anybody needs it. They're pretty famous for coming in, you know, not working. Like I said, I tried to find on YouTube people doing this, and I really couldn't find much outside of one guy who tried. And just was like, yeah, it's not going to fit. I don't want to use it, and gave up. Other than that, I haven't seen anybody actually go through and do it. Maybe it's out there and I haven't found it, but it's certainly not a lot. Anyway, that's adapting a Type 1 regular or earlier style Type 3 case to fit the later Type 3 Mustache Bar. Hopefully it helps somebody out there. Don't know if it will. Probably include some of this in my overall video on this engine, but thought I would do this as a separate one for someone who's just interested in how to do this and doesn't care about the rebuild. So yeah, if you like the video, drop me a comment. If you don't mind, hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything, helps me out a ton, and I'll see you guys soon.